Now, I have a little clip. I know, Diana, I'm out of time. There is a YouTube video there on the food riots in Haiti, and I thought it might be interesting for you to look at what has been happening. So I don't know if I can crave your indulgence.
Actually, we have a very short time.
Okay, so what I'll do is I'll leave you with the link, Diana. It's in the last slide for those of you who are interested in seeing it. And you can see the enormity of the problem of the food security crisis that we're dealing with. Thank you very much.
I thought I heard Jorge say at the beginning the dangers of futurology, but you really gave us a full plate of prognostication. I'm a bit concerned, and I'd like to hear your comments on what I see really happening is the danger of the commodity risk growth of your east-south axis, which is really fickle, especially when you're talking about non-oil and non-gas commodities, versus what really I think we've still misaddressed pretty much globally, that I'm not really sure it's the power of TNCs or globalization or anything. I really think it's the power of the consumer market. And the consumer market is still 90% in the north. Yes, we have 1 billion people in India, 1 billion people in China, but those that consume the goods are a minimal percentage of that population. So when you look at it, the power is still in the north. So I'd like your comments on that. Jessica, Tony Mengo has an excellent piece, I think 2 months ago, on Cuba's soft power diplomacy in the Caribbean, where he goes through like 30 years of the whole soft power involvement, which I think is very useful for what you're focusing on, because it's really the impact of non-traditional initiatives. Indira, boy, I have no sense of understanding how we in the Caribbean are going to look to Cuba, which is a failed agricultural model, as a place that we are going to get technical assistance to develop food security in the Caribbean. Mention Brazil, mention Israel, which is what we're doing, but by no stream of the imagination there's any agricultural subsector or product in Cuba over the past 30 years that has succeeded, even in its most basic form. So for us to now say that, I mean, sure, you know, it's a free handout, but, you know, they used to say in the corporate world, you get what you pay for. There's just no area of Cuban agriculture that anybody, by any stretch of the imagination, could say is successful to show anybody in the Caribbean. I would even venture Haiti. Haiti has had a successful rice industry for many, many years. No, well, but that's because of the problems with the embargo and so on. But, you know, you don't go to Cuba to learn that. And, you know, I just have a peeve on the whole agricultural issue. You know, for decades, we argued that agricultural production and goods are undervalued, and that agricultural economies were getting shafted by the international marketplace because prices were so low, multinationals manipulated everything and so on. And granted, these new prices, you know, some countries are getting a boon, but most of it is still staying with those who market. But so now the prices are up. And maybe the prices are now up to what ought to be the real price of agricultural foodstuffs, which is related to the input, the human labor, the other inputs that go in. Maybe now we have to pay the real value of agriculture. I personally tell people, I have no problem with $4 gasoline a gallon. That is still cheaper than a gallon of beer, of coffee, of milk, of bottled water, of any spirit, and it's at least 1,000 times much more productive. So I personally tell people I have no problem with $4 a gallon. I have a problem with where the profit of the $4 a gallon goes. But compared to those prices, so I think it's something we need to look into, because we can't be arguing that, you know, we were being exploited on low food prices. Now they're high, and now it's still bad also, because that is the sort of adjustment in the curve of what was really for decades an undervalued commodity product in the international marketplace. So with the exception of transportation costs because of petroleum costs, everything else really is an adjustment in that price in terms of the chain of production of agriculture. Thank you.
I wonder if somebody can enlighten me about how widespread is the education in Cuba and how many really professional, highly qualified people they have to supply to the world if all the restrictions are lifted. Is it a vast reservoir of pool of educated class we are talking about or not? And secondly, is there any prospect of Cuba joining the CARICOM? And if they do, will it make any difference to the whole story? What will be the implications?
You made a comment in your presentation. Let Cuba sort. Okay. Let Cuba sort its own problems, and then you went on and said, let Cuba make its own decision. Let Cuba sort its own problems sounds a bit harsh to me. With maybe intervention and so on, help can be given, and maybe if that sort of thing had happened before, then this sort of move towards change would have happened earlier. I like the comment for Cuba to make its own decisions. That is good, because after suggestions and so on come in. But it sounds sort of harsh to say let it solve its own problem. And Lecturer Ramprasad, for CARICOM, would you say we're dependent on milk for protein more than meat? Because I saw on the screen and in your presentation that there was like a move from milk or using so much milk to concentrating on more meat.
A question for Professor Heine. Can you go into more detail? I mean, he touched on it slightly, but more detail as to where he thinks the new Raul government is going with this sort of semi-market reforms. It seems that he's there seems to be a sort of divergence of view as to between, say, more hardline U.S. people and maybe Caribbean and others as to the real intent of these reforms. I mean, is it that Raul has decided that the China model is where he's going, and he's going to go there quite fast, or is it something in between, or is that a flawed analysis?
Yes, the days of cheap oil, we know that is over. The days of cheap food is also over. Right? So we in Jamaica here, we better start farming in empty land. Because I know we are going to expect any cheaper food. The American government, just like how a lot of people don't talk about it out here, but the government has been subsidizing the farmers, and the farmer in turn subsidizing the public here in Jamaica. Yeah, if the government should get strict on the farmers, because a lot of them are living well, you know. Many of our farmers live well if the government should have really deal with them. But the United States government also...
If it's a question, could you frame it as such?
No, it's not a question. I just want... I late, you know, I arrive about 10 after 10, so I missed some of the presentation.
Okay, but we have a very short time for discussion.
Yeah. It's, the government, the U.S. government soon stop subsidizing the farmers in America. It's only a matter of time, by now in the next 10 to 12 years. So all the cheap wheat and the cheap corn we are receiving, see, we better prepare.
Maybe by then the Cuban model will offer something.